As a saltwater aquarist, my biggest fear is that when I die, my missus will sell my tank for what I told her it cost. But it doesn't have to be that way, so today I'm going to show you how to set up your very own saltwater tank for just £182. Now I've priced all this in pounds sterling, but you can more or less substitute pounds for dollars, so it'll still cost around $182 in the States. And this is not a tiny tank that limits your livestock choices and makes stability hard. It is a 2.5 foot 25 gallon tank. And I've designed this setup to be modular so you can upgrade it as you progress in the hobby, and I'll cover off the upgrades in part 2 of this video. And if it's your first time here and you want a new reefing video every week, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out when I upload. Right, let's get stuck in. For the tank, I've chosen this Tetra 105 litre starter kit that costs £125. It's sold as a freshwater tank, but I contacted the manufacturer who told me it is perfectly suitable for saltwater too. It's available in most countries around the world, and it's easy to simply buy equivalent equipment for similar cost in the countries where it's not available. The tank is 29 inches long, 14 inches wide and 16 inches tall. With saltwater tanks, rectangles are the best shape as they maximise swimming space for your fish, provide you with more space to put rocks and corals, and have greater surface area, which is better for oxygenation. And at 25 gallons or 100 litres, this tank has plenty of water volume, which will help with stability. A larger water volume will help dilute any problems you have and will help maintain important parameters like temperature and salinity much more steadily than a smaller tank. At the same time, it is a very manageable size, so you can easily do a 10% weekly water change with just a couple of buckets. And if you encounter problems with your water parameters, it's easy enough to do a 30 or 40% litre water change to reset things. It comes with a lid which hides the light, prevents evaporation and stops your fish from jumping out. But you can remove that if you prefer the sexy rimless look, and we'll be doing that in part 2 of this video when we look at affordable upgrades. Now, as is common with aquariums like this, all 4 panes of glass are clear, so you'll want to use sticky back plastic to cover the back panel so your view isn't disrupted by whatever's behind the tank, and to give you somewhere to hide your cables. This roll cost me £8 and took a matter of seconds to apply. Black or blue are the most popular colours for a reef tank background. The blue gives a slightly brighter look, but black is far more popular and will really make your livestock pop, so it's what I'd recommend. Now, this tank comes with a compact in-tank filter that is rated for up to 150 litres. It's a slimline unit that sits on the back glass, so it's nice and subtle and won't ruin your tank's aesthetic or take up any real space for your rockscape. It also has a space for the included free heater to sit out of sight and a small pump that creates water movement, which will in turn oxygenate the tank. However, as is common with filters like this, the filter media supplied is just a disposable activated carbon pouch. Now, that will keep your water crystal clear, but it won't do anything to control your nutrient levels, i.e. nitrate and phosphate, or provide a home for beneficial bacteria to live, which are the 2 things you need to do in a saltwater tank. If you do away with the carbon sponge, there is a little space to put filter media in for bacteria to colonise. But in reality, this is where your rock and sand come in. In a saltwater aquarium, the rock and sand are a key source of filtration. They provide a huge surface area for bacteria to colonise. The bacteria then break down fish waste and uneaten food from toxic ammonia and nitrite to safe nitrate. I bought the cheapest aquarium sand I could find, which was this 10 kilo £22 bag. Although I used less than half of that, which I could have got for £10, so I'm calling the cost of sand £10. While cheap aquarium sand is fine, it is essential to prepare it before it goes in. Firstly, you'll need to run a magnet through it to pull out any metal fragments. You'll be surprised how much metal there can be in aquarium sand, and if it sticks to a magnet, that means it's ferrous metal, which can rust and make your water toxic to marine life. You'll then need to rinse the stuff off. Now, cheap sand is as dusty as August in the Sahara, so it will need a good old soaking. Doing so is really easy though. You just throw it in a bucket, turn the tap on and let it rinse for half an hour. It is worth giving it a stir to pull out as many fine particles as possible, but even if you just turn the tap on and leave it, you'll get the worst of it out. The sand bed should be around an inch deep, but don't sweat it if it's a little more or a little less, it'll be fine. For rock, I've used dry man-made rock. I bought 6.5 kilos or £14 and it cost me 39 quid. As well as providing filtration, it will also make a nice little aquascape that will look cool, give you somewhere to mount your corals and provide a hiding space for your fish to live in. In the UK, this rock is called Reef Saver rock, but you can get similar stuff for a similar price all over the world. Now on a more expensive setup, you'd use another filter like a skimmer to help control nitrate and phosphate levels and keep algae at bay. But on a small tank like this, that's not necessary, and you can export the excess nitrate and phosphate by doing weekly water changes of around 10 to 20%. So with sand, rock and water changes, you achieve the required filtration goals of turning ammonia into nitrate, then removing the excess nitrate and phosphate, so you don't need to spend any more money on filtration for this setup. Now I have my own water filter, so I fill the tank myself and mix in some Reef tank specific salt powder, which cost me about £9 to fill the entire tank. Making your own salt water will save you money in the long run, but the filters you need are quite expensive, so for this build you're probably best off buying pre-mixed salt water from your local fish shop. And as a rough guide, my local fish shop sells 100 litres of water for £28, although I've left the price off the total calculation because this list is really about equipment, which is the most expensive part of a normal setup. For lighting, we are using the stock Tetra LED strip that came free with the tank, and this will be totally fine for fish and will show off their beautiful colours as well as any other light. To support corals though, a light needs enough power measured in PAR as well as the right spectrum. Now when I tested the stock light, it was surprisingly adequate for power and gave PAR of at least 50 or more in the key areas of the tank, which is enough for beginner friendly corals. Where the light falls down though is the spectrum. What corals want is a light that covers this part of the spectrum, which is mostly blue light. As you can see from the black curved line, the stock light on this tank covers a much broader spectrum with not much dedicated to the sweet spot corals one, so your corals won't be able to make use of most of the light given off. Now you might find that some soft corals get by under this light in the short term, but this setup is about getting your foot on the saltwater ladder, and I'll cover off the cheap but still very good quality upgrades you can add to get your saltwater tank ready for corals in part 2 of this video. You should wait at least a couple of months before adding your first corals anyway, and for now I promise you won't be disappointed with how awesome your fish look under the light. In order to prepare your tank for fish, it will need to establish that colony of bacteria I mentioned. Now there's tons of information online about cycling a tank, but in short, I bought a small piece of true ocean live rock from my local fish shop, which contains the bacteria needed, and to be sure, I added some bottled bacteria in the form of ATM colony to top it up. All of which means I can add fish from day one. Now it's essential to keep the live rock wet and ideally submerged on the way back from your local fish shop to make sure the beneficial life doesn't die off on your way home. And you should feed the tank very sparingly for the first few weeks while the bacteria colonise. But this is the exact same method I used on my main tank, and it's a totally legitimate way to start a tank, so don't feel like you're cutting corners. The full cost of all the equipment you'll need for this setup then is just £182, which is an absolute bargain. Now there are of course limitations to this tank, which I'll come on to in a second. But this is what the finished setup will look like when you add your first fish, and I'm sure you'll agree it looks absolutely fantastic. The glass and water are crystal clear and the clownfish look beautiful. These clowns settled instantly and were out and about swimming within half an hour of going in the tank. And this was all achieved on pretty much the same budget as you'd need for a freshwater setup. And that is why I've made this video. A typical small reef tank can cost an absolute fortune, and the most popular starter tank is this 75 litre 20 gallon Red Sea Max Nano, which costs an eye-watering $1,200. And with my saltwater setup, you get stunning colours you just don't find in freshwater fish, and the potential for a never-ending journey of awesomeness as you progress into the fascinating world of corals and inverts, all on a budget anyone can afford. Now the key to success with a tank like this is to understand its limitations. While the filtration is totally adequate, you won't be able to keep tons of fish, and I'd recommend no more than 4 small fish to start with. For what it's worth, my choices would be 2 clownfish, a Royal Gramma basslet and a shrimp goby. Those fish are all easy to keep, look absolutely stunning and have bags of character. You'll be able to expand that choice if you stick to a strict weekly water change regime, but it's easy to neglect water changes, so see how you get on for a few months to start with. I also found the heater struggles to maintain 25 degrees C or 77 Fahrenheit in a cold room. That won't be a problem for everyone, but if it is for you, you'll want to buy a larger heater for around £20. I'd recommend a 150 watt heater for this 100 litre tank to give you a bit of headroom. And the only other limitation is that this setup is more suited to fish, shrimp and hermit crabs than it is corals. But there are a few cheap and simple upgrades you can make to get around that, which I'll cover off in part 2 of this video. And finally, for the avoidance of doubt, this is not a sponsored video and I bought everything you see with my own money. If you've got any questions then let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video give it a thumbs up and subscribe for part 2 next week, and until then, happy reefing.